I am Dave O'Higgins.
I am Rob Luft. I'm a jazz guitar player from London.
And I play the saxophone. This album's called O'Higgins and Luft Play Monk and Trane.
So this is a new collaboration between me and Dave. We are focusing on quite a specific repertoire from Monk and John Coltrane.
What we're trying to do actually is pick some tunes that I guess don't get played so often. I mean, people play Thelonious Monk tunes a lot, but it tends to be the same sort of dozen Monk tunes get played over and over again. And there's probably about sort of 60 others, and we're sort of picking from them. In fact, Rob introduced me to some Monk tunes that I'd never even heard before.
His compositions and his albums are they're so off the wall and so interesting that they're just timeless. So you put on an album of his from the late 50s and it just sounds like it was made yesterday.
Rob was really into his Monk, and I enjoyed that because I thought that was one writer who I knew the tunes everyone knows, but I didn't know many others, and I thought I'd really like to dig deep and get into that. And then the Coltrane side of things, we looked a lot into the recordings he made on the Prestige label, and so we're playing some standards that he liked to play.
Coltrane's a very personal musician for me because some of his albums, particularly some of the, I guess around the period we're focusing on, the kind of late 50s, very early 60s stuff that he did on Atlantic and also Prestige, with the two labels that we've kind of hand-picked music from. That was some of the stuff that got me into jazz. Like the album My Favourite Things, the album Giant Steps were two of the first CDs I bought, and I just loved them. And that took me from being a kind of John Lee Hooker obsessed, 10-year-old blues guy, to being an 11-year-old obsessed with Coltrane jazz guitarist, which is why I've got into this bizarre position that I am today and being, making jazz music on a daily basis.
I'm a big early Coltrane fan. I really like the early Coltrane, and there seemed to be a nice link because, of course, Monk and Trane played together.
Dave is a person that I've looked up to for a long time on the London jazz scene. He's well regarded by everyone, by kind of audiences, musicians, promoters alike.
Interestingly, we found this out the other day, that I think Rob was born about the time that I made my first solo record. So we're a generation apart, but musically we're totally on the same page, and it's been great. It's been great socially as well. We've really had a ball.
On the drums, we've got Mr. Rod Youngs, who is one of my great heroes, also like Dave on the London jazz scene. He's an incredible palette of sounds that he uses.
I've played a lot with Rod and never recorded with him, and I always thought, yeah, I must do a record with Rod sometime, because he's a very organic kind of drummer. He completely goes with the flow. He's just got this sound on the drum kit. If he just plays the toms quietly, you can just tell it's Rod playing his kit. On the organ, we've got Scott Flanagan, who is from Belfast. And Scott I met on the gigs we did where this idea was kind of cooked up, really. The blowing gigs I did with Rob.
He's an incredibly accomplished piano player and Hammond organ player alike. I think that this is a really interesting revision of some quite specific repertoire that doesn't get aired very much. And it's a really great little snapshot of quite a specific sound world.
Even though what we're doing is a straight ahead swinging project, it affords itself a lot of room for sounding more contemporary.